I'm calling this message, we have to hope to be able to cope. When my son was 3 months old, I was a playful dad. I am a playful dad. And I was in the room, our bedroom with our son, and was playing around, and I was holding him in my arms like this. I put his feet in my hands, and I would put his back against my hand. And I was just holding him like this. And then I started steadying him over the bed, and I noticed he could stand up. He could stand up. He could stand up, and if I moved my hand around a little bit, he would balance. And so as a fun dad, I would take my trick to different places and show people, and people would come and they would say, show me that trick that you do with your son, because they'd hear about it from other people, and of course it was so much fun for me. And actually this picture was taken, my son had just woken up. We went to get our pictures taken. I think it was around Christmas time, or I forget which holiday. Maybe it was Thanksgiving. And he'd just woken up and opened his eyes. And so we got him in the picture, and we wanted to get him a picture of him standing in my hand. And so that's what this is. And so he woke up, and he's just looking straight out at the camera and standing there in trust. And I thought about this because a couple months later, he stopped trusting this. He didn't want to do this anymore. This was too scary, standing on Daddy's hand, because he figured out something. He figured out that it's scary. He figured out that he was afraid, and he wasn't sure if my hand would hold him. And this can happen to us sometimes in our relationship with God. We know He has us in His hands. We know He's got us. We know He has us for life. But we're not quite sure if He'll hold us up. And so we look down and we look to see if His hand is holding us. At the end of World War II, there was this sub that had come into Newport News, into Virginia to dock. And somehow, as it was trying to dock, something went wrong with the port that was connecting it into the dock. And it started to sink. Water was coming in. It was beginning to go down. And so they sent a bunch of divers down to figure out what was going on with the mechanism at the bottom and see if they could get it fixed. And one inventive sailor at the bottom was starting to tap on the side of the sub, and it came out in Morse code. Is there hope? Is there hope? It's one of the most fundamental questions of life. Is life worth living? Is there hope? Can I count on anything in life? When you're sitting at the doctor's office, you hear the question, is there hope? When you're standing at the bedside of a loved one, you ask the question, is there hope? When your marriage is not working, you ask, is there hope? When you're out of a job, you ask, is there hope? You can go 40 days without food, even 3 days without water, and several minutes without air. But we really can't go on. We really just can't get up in the morning if we don't have hope. We need hope to be able to cope. It's been said that he who has a why, he who has a reason, can endure anyhow. He who has a why can endure anyhow. So today we're going to consider the question, how do I find hope to be able to cope? How do I hope in God in the midst of difficult circumstances? Because hope is in such short supply today. Our society, people around us, we're even tempted to look for hope in the wrong places. People actually look for hope in psychic lines, in palm readers. You see them along the side of the road. Can you believe someone would actually go in and get their palm read to look for direction in their life? There's quack cures out there, all kinds of crazy things. Even crystals. Apparently some people put their hope in crystals. It's very sad, but we need hope. These things will eventually disappoint us. And there's nothing quite worse than a false hope, something that doesn't have any hope in itself. Is there anything I can hope in? Well, the Bible tells us we know that God is our source of hope. He is the source of hope. You have in your outline, if you'd like to follow along there, in Romans, my God, the source of hope, will fill you with joy and peace through your faith in him. In other words, as you put your faith in God, he will give you peace. He will give you joy and hope. Then your joy will overflow. Specifically, God tells us to put our trust in his name. He says, in your name I will hope, for your name is good. What does that mean? I used to wonder as a little kid, what does it mean to put our trust in the name of God? What is the big deal with God's name? Well, names are interesting today. You know, when we name our kids, we usually give them some name that we like that maybe sounds good, like Tiffany or Amber. I heard a really sophisticated sounding name recently, Mackenzie. I just thought it sounded so sophisticated. But in ancient cultures, you see, they would name people by their character, by who they were. In fact, it might take a little while for them to come up with a name for some people, just to see who they are. And so my wife and I, we have 2 sons. And when our first son, my wife was pregnant, she really loved this name Brendan. And so we named our son Brendan when we found out that he was going to be a boy. And turns out his name means prince, okay? And it's unbelievable how he fits this name. He loves to be served hand and foot. There's no doubting his love. You know, if our experience of God's love first comes with our parents, there's no doubting that. He's got grandparents loving on him. He's 6 years old, and he still likes to be dressed by mommy or daddy. He likes, you know, people to sort of wait on him a little bit. Can you believe this? He orders Skittles and milk from the tub. Mommy, where's my candy, my milk? Because he gets like little treats for doing things well. Recently, he told me that he wanted to go and live in the big city. And I said, why do you want to go live in the big city? What's different about Castro Valley to the big city? And he said, well, in a big city, you can live in a hotel. And I said, why would you want to live in a hotel? Well, he said, see, when you're in a hotel, you can order room service. And I'm like, where did he find this out? I don't ever remember us doing this. But what happened is, it looks like he's providentially living out a little bit of his name. And then my son, Caleb, turns out Caleb, see, it means bold and dogged. And when we were going to have our second son, since my wife picked out our first son's name, I asked if I could pick out a name. And I always loved this name Caleb, partially because I really loved the context where the name Caleb came from. And you remember from the Israelite nation, Caleb and Joshua were the 2 who came back and said, we can do it. We can get into this land of Canaan. Whereas the other 10 who were sent, each one representing a tribe of Israel, they came back and said that it was too scary. There was giants there. But Caleb and Joshua came back and said, we can do it. And so this is what his name means, my son Caleb, bold and dogged. And one of his favorite things to do is to run full bore into you and wrap his arms around you. And it's almost like a combination of a tackle and a hug. And he's hurt some of us when he's done it before. But it's just it's like, you are mine. He's just, letting us know that this is his boldness. When I give him a juice box, I start to open it for him. And he says, no, I do myself. Even when my wife was trying to undress him, he says, no, I do myself. Just this strength about him. Recently, this funniest thing happened. My wife was taking my older son to school, okay? And my younger son, had to come along, and they were crossing over the crosswalk to the school. And my little son, wanting to do everything on his own, my wife grabbed